Are we at a time, Caroline, when we must change?
You tell me, do you think people have their values straight? I think that people who just don't get that there really is good and evil, and that evil has a way of penetrating into the blood and bones of people. We celebrate the fact that we've created weapons that can destroy the only planet we can live on. We celebrate that. This is how darkness works. You make a decision to negotiate your values. You make a decision to negotiate your conscience. That is the nature of evil. Right there. Not ignorance, choice.
How have we let the world get to this point? And how do we begin to shift it?
We had to activate nuclear goodness in us to counteract the nuclear evil. Nuclear goodness by choice. That the more you empower others, the more power there is. This is the great turning point for us, Michael. This is the bridge we're standing on. That
Are you ready to shine? Shine bright.
woohoo!
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wondered why you feel powerless or like there's something off in your life, not to mention for all of humanity, then do we have the Caroline Myss, The Power You Cannot See show for you. Today, I'll be talking with Caroline Myss, 5-time New York Times bestselling author and internationally renowned speaker in the field of human consciousness, health, energy medicine, and the science of medical intuition, spirituality, and mysticism. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about the shift humanity's going through and the universal journey, one from the love of power to the power of love. So welcome back to the show, Caroline. Are you ready to shine?
Absolutely. It's good to be back with you. You're fun.
Oh, thank you. And we are the red, sometimes yellow, sometimes red glasses crew.
I don't have yellow, but now you inspire me to look for yellow glasses.
And they're hard to come by, but if you find them, let me know. And woohoo! All right. I want to know about the plumbing, and I think it's important to go there. But before we do that, are we at a time, Caroline, when we must change?
What do you think?
Oh, heck yeah.
If someone can't see that change has been accelerated, not just it's been accelerated for all kinds of reasons. It's like a layer cake. It's been accelerated by necessity, by curiosity, by technology. It's and by evolution. I mean, all the forces are happening by climate change, by the fact that the two new frontiers are inner space and outer space, that we
Yes.
are on this precipice of joining a galactic community, that we are absorbing, adjusting to an energy-based technology, and that is changing our anatomy.
Can you say what that means, an energy-based technology?
Well, I mean, the first thing people do in the morning is plug themselves into the non-physical world. Now they plug themselves into the non-physical technical world, but in fact, that's just a few shades lower than the non-physical mystical world, right? So people have to schedule time to be in their physical bodies these days. It's called exercise. And they have to get little outfits. They have to get exercise clothes, and then they have to reward themselves. They have to have their exercise bottle of water on the side of them. It has to be just right. And then they have to have their non-fat oatmeal milk, almond milk, high energy drink as a reward for the fact that they're actually moving their physical body down the street. Because we have so become out of sync with being in the world of physical matter. So we have to get clothes to be in the world of physical matter. We have to exercise our clothes. We have to get the right outfit so we can be in the physical world. Look at us. We're just delusional.
Does that mean we're lost?
You know, I don't like to put everybody in the same category, right? Well, who's the we you're talking about? Who's the we you're talking about?
Well, there's a zeitgeist of humanity right now. Certainly there's those who are watching this. They're somewhat maybe more awake, for lack of a better term, on the journey. But there is all of humanity. Are we stumbling along, confused as to where we're going?
I would say everybody who supports demons and the demonic, who thinks that somehow or other, who are motivated by this idea that they have to be better than other people, that taking from others is going to somehow benefit themselves. I think that people who just don't get that there really is good and evil, and that evil has a way of penetrating into the blood and bones of people. And I think we're a very primitive, naive species. How many people on this planet still believe we're the only planet that's populated? How many people on this planet still believe there's an off-planet God that looks like us, that operates like us? Our theology is primitive. Our way of doing things. We celebrate the fact that we've created weapons that can destroy the only planet we can live on. We celebrate that. We still think it's an accomplishment to solve our problems by deciding we'll just kill them. That's all. We'll just go to war and kill them. I mean, we are primates, Michael. We're primitive. And we still think that we're entitled. We're entitled. We're actually, I'm entitled, but others are not. We still say things like, I can't believe I got sick. What the hell do you think? You're in a body that's designed to die. I'm just gobsmacked at what people believe. I'm gobsmacked. People do all these crazy ass health drinks to live forever. You ask them what age they are, and they can't bear to tell you the truth about their age. They have to go to all these Botox things and all this so that they don't look the very age they want to live beyond, so that they don't die. You tell me, do you think people have their values straight?
I think people have been gifted with a collective, not just amnesia, but with a collective set of rules and understandings that they're living by because they don't know they can live a different way. And so when we talk about discovering this power that's within, they don't even know that it's possible.
Why on earth do you say they don't know? A person makes a choice. Stop covering your ass by treating it like, oh, those poor babies, let's coddle them. What's the matter with you? People make a choice.
Yes.
This is how darkness works. You make a decision. You make a decision to negotiate your values. You make a decision to negotiate your conscience. And that's where it begins. You decide to tell yourself, I'm entitled to this. And once you decide to bend rules and play games and to turn off your conscience, you turn off your intuition. And now you're morphing your fundamental design. And once you morph that design, what you then do is you start making up your own narratives. So instead of listening to your intuitive system, which will automatically tell that person out, you start saying, why don't they get a job? So you eclipse your inherently good narrative with something that helps you get away with doing something that's against your conscience. There you go. And one thing builds on another, kind of like plaque in your teeth. And you think that, oh, they just don't know better. You're nuts. People do know better. Every one of them knows better.
On some level, they might, but I'm going to go here, Carolyn, because I think this is a question of nature versus nurture. Certainly, there's an intuitive element, but somebody who grows up in a certain set of values, in a certain religious upbringing, in a certain knowingness of what they've been taught, can they really see outside of that? I'm not making them victim. Nobody is a victim. Everything is a choice.
And how come everybody knows they've been neglected? How come everybody knows that? How come, Michael? How come everybody recognizes something's wrong when they've been wounded? Tell me that. How come they know that? Because they do. Because people recognize when something is fundamentally wrong. They may not know what to do about it. They may not know how to heal themselves, but they sure know that they've been violated. Therefore, they know what's violation.
Let's back up a few steps. This is fascinating, Carolyn, and thank you for joining me, or actually you're at the front of the ride right now on this train, and we'll get there. But you talked about the importance of understanding the end of an off-planet male god. Are you convinced then that everybody understands that this concept is broken?
No, not at all. I think that we are in the beginning of the end of the anthropomorphic age of God. I think we're at the beginning of that. And I think that that's such a great, big, huge thing, because all the mythologies and all the underlying narratives of the superiority of males over females, of the need for the male to be the intermediary between heaven and earth, the priests, the rabbis, the interpreters of the scripture, the creators of theology, that they all have to have a penis, that's the required physical element. Physiology has to be done that way in order for you to be redeemed, in order for you to get to heaven. This is going to break down because there's just no truth to it. It's absolute bogus nonsense. But that mythology has transferred to males need to run the legislature. Males need to run the country. Males get to make the decisions to bomb other nations. Males are superior. Females, they can't even decide what to do with their health anymore. My God, females should be allowed to die at home or carry a dead fetus, because they should be arrested for going across state lines if they're seeking women's health care. Men should decide that. Men should decide that. So, yes, we're at the beginning of the end of this horrific age of the male god.
And at the beginning of the end of the male god, and I am with you. As we begin to unravel that, is that a part of the unraveling of really the basis, if not for everything, then everything in the Western world right now, because it's going to have to be rebuilt anew?
Well, it's not just the Western world. Do you think the Islamic world's any different? Do you think the Buddhist world? What are you, nuts? This is the design of the world. It has been this way. We're not going to live to see the end of this nightmare. But we are watching the fight to keep the nightmare alive. And that's very much what's going on. It's the fight to keep the nightmare alive. That's why every time a woman runs for political office,
yes,
she has to do twice as much, 3 times as well, has to dress like a man, has to behave herself. And if she loses her temper, she must be menstruating. I mean, the way men fight is so dirty. And women can't do that. Women can't turn around and say anything like that. If a woman's physically abused, what were you wearing? And half these women, they wouldn't dare step forward and say, I was raped. If a woman violated a man, oh my God. So look at our value system. We think it's fundamentally okay for men to violate women, to violate the earth, to do whatever they want. We still think that. We still think that if you're white, male, and rich, well, the laws will bend in your favor. Show me any of the insurrectionists who are wealthy who've been arrested. They're in Congress, they're in the Senate. They just got everything they wanted for the bill for immigration, to protect the borders. But oh no, can't do that. They will destroy our country before doing something that brings the nation together, because they can't bear to give it. Well, look at how they think. Look at how these monsters think. And you think, what's the chances we can make decisions that benefit the whole of our planet when this is the way they think? When they and I offer this, and the nation sits back and listens to lies one after, people should be in the streets screaming, no more lies. No, stop lying. You have no idea what lies do to your health, what it does to your biospiritual ecology. You're not designed, the body, the soul is not designed to live on lies, which is why every human being in a relationship is so devastated when they find out they've been lied to by someone they care about, or even not care about. Because a lie is so hard. What did Jesus say? The worst person is a liar. Why is it so hard to face the truth? The truth will set you free. Truth, lies and truth. This is the core of the spiritual path. Is the capacity to face truth. It's not just truth like, do you pay your taxes? But it's truth like, what's really going on here in yourself? Like, is it me who's selfish? Is it me who's creating narratives because I don't want to be kind to another person? Is it me? Well, then if it's me, I have to look at that. Is it me who can't accept, this or that? Then I have to look at that. This is what they mean by truth.
That seems to me like the starting point today. As within, so without. We get to face everything on the inside before we're able to make the big picture difference on the outside. Would you agree?
Michael, how long has that truth been available to people? How long?
Many thousands of years.
Why have we not listened to it? Why have we not practiced it?
Convenience.
Okay. Choice.
Mm-hmm.
Choice. That's the nature.
Yeah.
That is the nature of evil. Right there. Not ignorance. Choice. I don't want to apply this truth to that person.
Mm-hmm.
I want to apply it when convenient. That is the nature of evil. That you think you can cherry pick a truth and make it okay for this person, but not for this person. And what we've reached now is the age of holism. Whole. Where the great mystical teachings, what is in one is in the whole. What you do to one, you do to everybody. And these are the teachings that are core to our biophysical ecology, to our health, they're core to, I don't care if you believe in nothing. I don't care if you're an agnostic. I don't care what you believe.
Yeah.
But you can't argue with the laws. You can't argue with the laws. As far as I'm concerned, God is law. It's as simple as that. The nature of God is law. Law has no religion. It's totally consistent, applies to anywhere, and you could take the laws and travel off the planet, and you would still have the laws.
Well, someone would ask, what are those laws?
Well, gravity works. Do you think gravity is a law? What about cause and effect?
Yes, certainly.
What about action and reaction? What about the law of energy works its way into matter, matter back to energy?
Yeah.
Okay. So all of these are laws, right? Agreed?
Sure.
Okay. What about the law of energy? What about karma?
Yes.
Okay. So these are laws. They're not. What about the law of interconnectedness? What about the law that, like Buddha says, change is constant?
Certainly.
Okay, so don't you think these are obvious?
No.
You don't. You don't think cause and effect is obvious that if I hit something, it's going to fly? Equal to the amount
I,
of pressure I put on it. Don't hit it so hard, it'll fall off the table. That's not,
okay, I'll buy that.
so it is obvious to you.
Not on a, it may be a choice, but I see a lot of people too, and we can call this a choice. We can call everything a choice at the end of the day.
That's right, it is.
Too bombarded with information, with fear, with gloom, with doom, with this, the other, that they don't even remember their names, let alone if I cut somebody off, that's going to come back to me at some point.
Right, okay. It's fair enough that, like how much data can you keep in your head?
Mhm.
How much data? Okay. So you start out realizing, I think there's some
Yeah.
start out small with cause and
Mhm.
effect. Maybe gravity. Don't jump off your building. Okay, let's try not jumping off your building. And
Yep.
let's try cause and effect. That for every
Okay.
cause I set into motion,
Mhm.
there's probably an effect. Can you buy that?
Certainly.
Okay, now the next thing is, what are you going to apply that law to? Shall you apply it to your temper? Shall you apply it to every word you use? Do you want to
Ooh.
macro and micro it? So you can macro it for everything every time I pull out my charge card, there's an effect. I get a bill. I may not like it, but duh. Okay. Every time I go to work, there's an effect. I earn some money. That's how I pay for an apartment. Okay. Every time I choose the tone of voice I use with someone, I notice there's an effect. If I raise my voice, it doesn't work. If I keep it at an equilibrium and add a dash of love, maybe humor, it goes down real well. Okay. Okay. I'm learning cause and effect. I'm going to choose words. I learned that if I use certain words,
Mhm.
they work a lot better. Like, I have a problem here. Oh, I think I'll take the word problem out. I
Okay.
have an opportunity here. I like that word better.
Yeah.
It goes better. Cause and effect. What am I doing? I'm learning that I'm co-creating the world I live in.
Yes.
Co-creation. Wow. Now I think I'll expand my little brain. And I think I'll think all the power I didn't know I had. Well, if I could co-create an attitude by just playing with words, maybe I co-create the atmosphere in a room. Maybe when I walk in a room, I have an impact on the energetics of everybody else. And if I do, where does my energy stop? Because it's not bound by the walls in a room. Energy is not bound. How do I know? Well, if I had a virus and I open the windows, it's not going to say, should I leave your room or should I stay in here? Energy goes.
Yes.
And energy is not bound by time and space.
Mhm.
Okay, so now it's interdimensional travel. Interdimensional. Maybe that's too much for a lot of people to think about, but it doesn't change the fact. Well, the world was always round. It doesn't change the fact that you are a flat earther. It's always been round. And maybe one day your consciousness will expand to include a round earth. It
Mhm.
doesn't change the fact that it's always been around. But you think of the laws are actually just built into your system.
This means to me that we better be darn careful about not just the words we choose to use out here, but every single thought we have.
Actually, so much so that it would be wise if one day you spent a day just pondering this. If my words are so powerful then perhaps I should actually consider that every thought is a prayer. That every thought is actually an act of creation. And if every thought's an act of creation, then maybe, just maybe, every thought should be considered a prayer because of its power. And this is what, I've spent decades consumed in the study of mysticism. And what I just love about the mystics is that they reach a place, and I don't care if it's Rumi or beloved Teresa of Avila, or Francis of Assisi, or Padre Pio, or any of the great mystics. They reach a place of surrender. But let's talk about that for a moment, because it's all the power you cannot see, but somehow it is the power that that captivated them. And when people are introduced to surrender, the idea of it's repugnant, and it means failure. I have failed, because oftentimes surrender is introduced to them through the AA program. I have so screwed up my life through addiction that I just surrender. I've made a mess of it. I just can't, I can't do this without help. But, and the other end of the spectrum is when you realize how much power you have, that every single word can change the shape of your universe. Let me give you an example. If you said to your wife, "Do you love me?" And she said, no. One word, no. No. And cut off the supply. There goes your universe. There goes everything. There goes everything. One word, one little syllable. No. One syllable. And the whole of it vanishes. Or if she said, if you didn't know, you said, "Hey, can I just ask you one question? Do you love me?" "Yes. And I've been waiting for that question. What the hell's wrong with you? Why did it take you so long to ask?" But actually, it was just one word that actually got you. And everything was created anew. And if you thought about, my God, what power is packed in? I remember being giving a lecture, and I had to get to the ladies' room after the lecture because I had what you might think of as a feminine emergency. And there's just no stopping. You got to go to get to the ladies' room. And this woman stopped me, and she said, "May I speak to you?" And I said, "No, I have to, excuse me." And I got a 9-page letter from her telling me off. 9 pages. Telling me off. How rude I was, how inconsiderate, how she traveled all that way. I am menstruating everywhere. It was an emergency. And I thought, what? And just a few words, "No, not now." And she fully intended to slaughter my ego, to put me in my place. So I threw the letter out. I didn't even bother responding. I thought, I'm not going to engage with you. Are you nuts? It's like dancing with a tiger. Because I didn't answer the letter, she shows up at the next lecture that was local in Chicago. And she comes up to me and she says, "You didn't answer my letter." And I said, "What letter?" And then she says, and then she tells me, and I said, "Oh, you wrote that letter." I said, "I didn't even read it." I said, "I got through the first couple of pages and I was like, whoa." And I said, "You sit down and you listen to me. This is what happened." And I said, "It didn't even occur to you that maybe someone else had a reason that had nothing to do with you. Nothing. But look what you did. You decided, I think I'll put all my energy into destroying you." I don't think people get that they live in their own universe and they think they're the center of their universe. And that there are a lot of other planets out there. There's a lot of other stars, that this is a very big galaxy. And what I often tell my students is, I need you to think about something. How much easier your life would be if you were humble. if you actually were humble, and how much trouble your hubris has gotten you into, and how much trouble your pride has gotten you into, and how much trouble you've gotten into because you are so convinced you know so much. That in fact, your greatest protection in this world is saying, I have no idea what's out there. I have no idea. And I have no idea what's going on in this person's life. All I know is certain mystical truths, that what is in one is in the whole. So what's ever going out there, some part of it's going on in here. What's ever going on in here, some part of that's going on. I don't know how it works. All I know is it works. I don't know how gravity works. All I know is if I jump, I fall. And I don't need to know how it works for me to trust that. All I know is if I take my watch off and toss it off this balcony, it's going down. It's not going up. And I don't need to understand that law. I live by it. I don't need to understand what's in one is in the whole. I have to live by it, because if this law is true, is truth, then the other laws are truth. This is all the power you cannot see. If one word can create so much in me, do you love me? Yes, no. If one word can create so much, then I have to assume that one word can elevate anything that I am looking at. So instead of saying problem, I think I'll take that word out and put in a curiosity. Maybe I'll put in opportunity. Maybe I will wake up in the morning and bless my day instead of saying, this is going to be a bad day. Maybe I won't use that language anymore. Maybe I will start as a devotion, just because I know language is powerful, and say, this is a beautiful day. When the saints surrendered, what they meant was, this is so much power you gave me that I don't want to mess it up. So I surrender it back to you, and you guide me every day with what you want me to do. Whatever. So, and think about that, Michael. It means that from that point on, and this is where humbleness comes in. Mm-hmm. I don't judge what's in front of me that day. I don't say, this task looks so very dull. This task looks unglamorous. I need something a little bit more impressive. Instead, I look and assume everything in front of me is something essential for you. Not for me, but for you. And this is the difference between that philosophy, that it's an inner theology of motivation of love of power to understanding the power of love.
What's fascinating to me is it's not for me, it's for you. Now you're talking about giving, you're talking about loving, you're talking about more than the me.
Yeah.
That's a very different way to live.
It's a very different way to live. And it's a very different way of, it's also a very different way of experiencing the power in this universe, and how power works with you, for you, and on behalf of you. Come here, we're going to go for a ride.
I like it.
All right. I'm living for a temporary period of time, as you know, because I was flooded out on the 19th floor, look at this, of an apartment building. Now, I know it's hazy down there, but way down there, you could see the skyline of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And this is Lake Street, and there's another apartment there, but we don't want to see in there. But you see the vista. Can you see the vista?
Yeah,
okay.
I can.
Now, here's my point. If we were on the first floor, you can't see that, can you? And so if we lived on the first floor here, and I said, you know what? We're just 8 miles from the skyline of Chicago, the John Hancock building, the Sears Tower, we're just 8 miles. They could say to me, you're crazy. Same address.
Yeah.
They could say that because they can't see it. They could, and then I can see all the church steeples in this town, all the synagogue, I can see it all. And I can, and do you know that there's 14 churches just sprinkled around here and the synagogue's there and they could say, no, there isn't. Because all they can see, if you're on the first or second floor, is across the street. They could see the Frank Lloyd Wright Unitarian Church, and they could see Grace Episcopal, but they can't see what I can see. St. Edward's Catholic and St. Mary's, and they can't see all of that, right? But I can. I can. And I can see, etc., the YMCA, and I can see, and then if I go this way, I can see, and then if I look this way, I can see Midway Airport. And they would be able to say, you don't know what you're talking about. Now, see, that's no different than the floors in each of us, is it? Really? That each one of us is like this building. We're once the building's built, once we're born, we're built, we're locked in. You know, born here in Chicago, and that's it, baby. I'm Chicago and purebred. And so I'm a Midwest girl, and you can't get that out of me. But and I was born and raised in a Catholic family, and don't we all know that? And it shows, and I drip that. But as I went up the floors of my building, I wanted a bigger view of life. I wanted to include more. I wanted to see more. I wanted to envision what else is out there. And every floor is more expensive in our life. Every vista is more expensive. And, you know, if I tell someone on the first floor, you should see my view. Whew, I get to see this, and I have this wraparound balcony, and yeah. I'm only up here because I had a fight. I had a flood, and it was the only apartment available. But they don't know that. But the point is, nobody's interested in how high you can see and how much you can see. And there's not a way to tell them how many buildings you can count or how many stars you can see, or that during the snowstorm a month ago, as I was sleeping, you see all these windows. It's just pouring snow. And it was like sleeping in a snow globe. Because I was only 2 feet from the windows. And I thought, oh my God, this is like, yes, it was like being in a snow globe. You couldn't see anything, but I was surrounded by this blizzard blowing at the windows, but it was gorgeous. And I was wrapped up in my blanket and all this snow, and I had my doggie, and I said, look at this, we're in a snow globe. But I realized that the higher vistas in ourselves are very expensive, and they require that we shed what we used to think was true, what we used to believe was true, that we release narratives that we once thought. Coming up the floors, I thought it was just this neighborhood. Where did all these other neighborhoods come from? I thought it was just this. Oh my God, I didn't know there was a city there. I didn't know there was a lake that way. What's that lake? Michigan. Who knew there was a lake there? Okay. So I think it's very difficult for people to release their narratives. And that I'm referring to the way you spoke earlier when we first started the conversation. Well, maybe people don't know. But one of the things I've come to understand, Michael, is that the universe doesn't let us get away with that. And we have a natural inherent wiring that we aren't born with a knowledge of mathematics, and we're not born with a knowledge of geography or anything like that, because that's information that changes with the generations. But we are born with an inherent knowledge of what is truth. And what is the nature of our species? What is inherent to our species? For example, to wit, we are born with an inherent sense that you don't take what's not yours, that it's wrong. And which is why from the get-go, when kids do that, they do it in secret. From the get-go, a child will the first time they steal, they'll steal in secret. Because they know it's not right.
Yeah.
We are born knowing you don't kill. You don't murder. We just know there's something wrong with that. We know it's wrong to lie. And which is why there's a physiological response. There's a physiological response to lying. There's a biophysical, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It's not a natural thing. And it's not a natural thing to accept a lie and act like it's the truth, to agree with it.
Yeah.
To just let it go into you and act like you didn't just hear a lie. Right? Because we're wired for that.
Yeah.
We're wired to say, I'm sorry, but that was a poison you're trying to put into me. It's a poison. And I think what we've done, and it's due to therapy, is that we've given ourselves a long latitude to get away with a lot of things because we claim we're frightened. Oh, I'm so frightened. No, we're weak. And we think that's an excuse to not stand up to our fears. And then we wonder why we don't heal. And we wonder why things don't work in our lives. And we wonder why we're anxious and depressed. But we've given ourselves so much latitude to just get away with being weak instead of saying, what's the matter with me? Why do I let myself get away with being frightened? What am I frightened of? Well, go stand up. You're afraid of the dark? Go sit in the dark for 3 days and get over it. But that's not what we do. We get coddled and we just avoid it. And we don't build backbones.
How have we let the world get to this point? And how do we begin to shift it? Because we are all allowing the lies in.
I think we've done a lot to coddle the victim. Okay. I think anytime you swing from one side to the other in the extreme, you got to come back to the middle. And I think for the longest time, the West became a society that victimized everything that it decided, white males largely decided couldn't reason. It decided the enslaved couldn't reason, decided women just couldn't reason, too emotional, decided animals had no reasoning capacity, decided that defined its role by dominating. We get to dominate and abuse this earth, kill as many animals as we want, destroy as much land as we want, rape as many women as we want, sell as many slaves as we want. Just the right of the white. And so when the rebellions began, it said, no more civil rights, feminist rights, the rights of all these people. Then the depth of the pain began to come out. The depth of the pain. And I would say that there were several tributaries coming in at the same time. And it's probably was triggered at the end of the World War II with the depth of the pain of the Holocaust. It's probably this big, oh my God, are people really capable of that? And that was like the ultimate crime of the superior white male, was the idea that there was a superior white male race. And that it had the privilege to annihilate anybody that was not perfect and take all their treasures, all their land, all their booty, do whatever it wanted, and that it could kill people who weren't perfect, the mentally handicapped, the fragile, the elderly, do whatever it wanted. And it was from that point that we reached such an extreme of horror to see what human beings were actually capable of, and not only capable, but how many of them didn't even have remorse over that. They didn't even have remorse over that. And had they not been caught, if there wasn't a little pissant Nuremberg trial where just a handful of these monsters were held accountable, given how many, there were over 130 concentration camps, I think, at least 100, that, I mean, all these people that should have been hung and quartered for what they did just fell back into society as if it was just, a day at the beach. I was just a soldier. I was following orders, all the way people negotiate evil. But from that came Israel. And from that came the ultimate horror. All you do is say the word Holocaust, the ultimate horror. And then I don't know how to thread this path to eventually civil rights. So how did we get this way? Ultimately, the horror of all of this, nature's primal law is the law of balance. It's going to balance. And entering the nuclear age, it sounds like I'm going all over the place, but I'm actually not. The nuclear age triggered the necessity for us to move into the age of holism, because in entering the nuclear age, we entered the age of our own destruction. And we did not have the moral or ethical constitution to not use the weapons that we made. In fact, we celebrated the fact that we could destroy our only home, and the naivety and the stupidity and the horror and the arrogance to think that, well, we could just nuke part of the planet, but we'll be okay because we could contain all the nuke fallout and maybe just nuke one ocean and maybe just nuke. How stupid we are. It's incomprehensible. But the only way is if we could put our evolution on fast forward, become a species incapable of being as destructive as we can be. So we had to activate the nuclear goodness in us to counteract the nuclear evil, because nuclear evil went nuclear. And so we had to activate, here's the difference. We have to activate our nuclear goodness by choice. Again, choice. And so in order to do that, it's like we have to look at the vulnerability of the human being. What makes us do evil to people? What is the source of that? What is the source of our darkness? And therein lies the emergence of the civil rights era and the era of, why do we deny rights to other people? Why do we want to repress other people? Why do we think that our power, what makes us more powerful, is to take away the power of other people, instead of the truth that a rising tide lifts all ships, instead of the mystical truth that what is in one is in whole? Don't you get it? That the more you do for others, the power of love, that instead of loving power and thinking that in order for me to have power, I have to take from you, why don't you get the mystical part of the wonderment that the more you empower others, the more power there is? This is the great turning point for us, Michael. This is the bridge we're standing on. Our choice is to finally play by the mystical truths that if I focus on making your life awful with political laws, financial laws, social laws, sexual laws, if I think that I'm going to make the world a better place by taking from you so I have more, I will destroy this place for both of us. My decision is to live my life in a way that empowers as many people as I can, because that I know the mystical mathematics. It will.
I love it.
It's like the loaves and the fishes. It will just thrive. It will thrive. I trust that. This is the well from heaven that Teresa of Avila talks about. This is the loaves and the fishes Jesus talked. This is everything. I can't even talk about it because it makes me so excited. That's your baby. I feel a baby coming on.
You mentioned our everything. Here we go.
My God. Oh, what
Carolyn,
a
meet Hannah
cutie
Bear. Hannah Bear,
pie.
meet Carolyn.
What a cutie pie. When did this little soul arrive?
21 months ago today.
Ooh.
I know. Yes, it's your 21-month birthday, isn't it? Yes.
What's
I
the name?
know.
What's the name? Michael, what's his name?
Hannah. Well, she goes by Hannah Bear.
Hannah
You
Bear.
good, Hannah Bear? You want down? Down. Okay. Thank you.
I can always, you can always tell a first-time parent.
Guilty as charged.
Oh, you're all smiles and everything, and it's just too cute for words. She's darling.
It's all a cosmic setup. Everything that's taking place is a cosmic setup for us to surrender, for us to change, for us to let go, for us to individually or collectively go the freak under the carpet, see what's there, bring it up either into the light or into the cloudy day, whichever you prefer, and deal with it.
Absolutely. It is a setup. And it's like the way I pray. I'll think to myself, I always talk to heaven and I'll say, wow, what do we got here? I'll do my half of this problem, but I can't figure out the rest. So I'm going to sleep. And by the time I wake up, figure it out. But I always think of God as this incredibly intimate companion. And I have never been disappointed. That for me is the way it is. And I think that part of the wonder of these years in which we live is that many, many, many people are going through the transition of saying that they don't believe in the traditional God, they don't believe in, whatever. But I think that's as it should be, Michael. I think there's this transition from this anthropomorphic God and the mythologies that go with that God, which are very behavioral and very, like God cares about your sexuality, to an understanding of a biospiritual ecological theology, where people are able to comprehend that they are agents of co-creation. And as such, their theology has to be about the management of that power, and that power is so profound that you can't manage that without a prayer life, so that you get that this is a very impersonal universe. There's nothing personal about the laws of cause and effect, gravity, co-creation, integration. There's nothing personal about the law that change is constant. There's nothing, it wasn't created for you. There's nothing personal about archetypal patterns, the archetype of mother, the archetype of father. They weren't created for you. But when you realize you've engaged that pattern, something very universal, something very impersonal becomes intimate. So those are the two features you really want to lock into in your effort to understand the nature of God. God is deeply impersonal, law-based, but deeply intimate. And the language of intimacy is prayer. And it's important to understand the nature of prayer. Heaven doesn't compensate for stupid. Okay? Heaven doesn't do stupid. Heaven is not Santa Claus. And heaven will never do for you what you can do for yourself. So you can't say, like, I'm going to sit home, go find me a job. And if you're real, that's not, we're in the business of co-creation here. So you have to go out and use your creativity and your legs and your arms and your efforts and your personality. And what is the case is that when you've exhausted yourself, you can expect heaven to step right in, but not until then. Not until then. Heaven doesn't indulge lazy because it's counterproductive to why you were born. And if you choose to be lazy, that's fine. You reap the consequences of it.
How do we thread the line, or, well, it's at least Western society, again, this might be globally, of I must, and a lot of our mythologies are built around this. I must martyr myself, though. I must slay myself, because that doesn't sound very loving either.
Who thinks that way? What are you talking about?
Who thinks I must martyr myself? I must slay myself? Well, that's a very Judeo-Christian or tradition that we must push and slave ourselves to the bone. We must put ourselves upon the cross. We must, that's actually that term, I must. But I must not look at my own happiness. I must not think of what will bring health to my family or health to myself. It's not a very holistic way of looking at the world to say I must drive and strive and work myself to the bone in order for the universe to participate with me, in order for that co-creation to take place.
Well, you don't understand co-creation then.
Tell me more then.
Because everything's an act of co-creation.
Yes.
Absolutely everything. And if everything's an act of co-creation, in the Buddhist tradition, there is no hell like it could be illustrated within Dante's, for example, depiction of the divine, but there's a description of states of consciousness that really qualify. And so the Buddhist definition of hell is to see yourself as completely powerless, is to be complete. And I think one of the most powerless things in the positions in the world is to find yourself kidnapped or taken and put someplace where no one knows where you are and you have no way of getting out. Think of the many women who've been kidnapped and captive by monsters, some for years, and how that is absolutely a Buddhist definition of hell. And yet a few of them said they developed a mindset that allowed them to survive. And this would be like in a way to say, when you say, tell me how. If you understood, a Buddha would say, if you understood your power, even down to the last place your body could be put, you recognize, but that's not my power. My power is not in my body. My power's in how I see where I am, how I think about where I am. It's not, my body can't do that. My soul's doing that. So I have to be stronger than the comfort of my body. So even though my body's frightened and uncomfortable, I have to find a state of consciousness that's higher than that can sustain my body. And if you read stories of people who were prisoners of war during World War II and etc., what they have in common is some version of doing that. Viktor Frankl talks about that.
Bingo.
And remember he wrote about, he said, if you saw these men walking into the concentration camps and you saw, big, strong men, and you saw these, thin little emaciated guys, you would put your money on these big men surviving. And he said, but it's not true. It's the ones that had the big souls and this deeper capacity to pull their body along on the power of their soul. Because the body can't pull the soul along. It's the soul that pulls the body. It's the soul that's the horse on the cart, not the other way around. And it's this truth that a person really needs to get in touch with. That in fact, what is my stronger part? Is it my body or is it something deep inside of me? As I've said to people in workshops, most recently the one I just did in Sedona, and I said, the most valuable things you have, the most valuable, the most precious, in fact, every single thing that you have that keeps you alive, you can't see. You cannot see love, you can't see compassion, you can't see trust, you can't see faith, you can't see any of those things. You can't see creativity, you can't see destiny, you can't see any of it. And these are the most important things that keep you alive. These are the forces that actually have power. These are the graces that sustain you. And if you took those away, you would be nothing. I could put your daughter in your arms, but you couldn't love her because where's the love? She'd be just a little body. I could put paper and pen in you and say, start writing, and you can't because I've taken creativity. So I would turn you into nothing but a zombie, a walking mass of blood, bones, and flesh, and nothing, because I've pulled everything from you that has any force at all. And that's grace and the power of your soul.
That to me seems what you're using the term evil. I'm going to call it the term old guard, seems to be seeking to do right now. And it's our choice whether to give that away or not.
It's how you understand how that's taking place. That's very fascinating to me. See, I really do think the dark forces have been unleashed.
Yeah.
I do think possession's happening. That darkness is in this country. And you can't have so many people falling for lies and then being like zombies, as if conscience is no longer a functioning part of themselves. As if they respond to someone who is knowingly lying to them, and they treat it as if they're hearing truth, as if they're hearing truth, as if they have totally cut themselves off, abdicated the greatest power a human being has, which is discernment, truth, and they've abdicated that in exchange for believing that somehow or other, the source of darkness talking to them has a redemptive power and can have, and what they have in common is they're so afraid of the future that they're convinced this dark force can take them back to the past, that they can make a journey that they cannot make, which is let's go back to the past. And of course, it's not possible, but they don't know that. It's horrific.
What do we do?
You know what, Michael? I have this conversation with several people each day because that's part of our task is what do we do?
Yeah.
And there are those who operate on the level that they operate on. I happen to deeply believe in the power of prayer and grace. And so I participate in prayer circles. I participate in that for the sake of, I turn to my mystical tradition and to the mystery of the mystical traditions, that what do they have in common?
Yeah.
You know, and I look back in my own life and I look at the experiences I've had that were really game changers for me to it.
Mhm.
When I was in college, I came home for a break and I was reading the Chicago Tribune. It was like over a Christmas break or something. And there was a story on the front page of the Chicago Tribune, which was at the time quite a powerful newspaper. And it was, you know, one of my majors was journalism, and they tell you that the most powerful corner on the front page was the headline, because your eyes go straight down. So the story that was located there at the bottom right side was the powerful location. And here was a story about a man who had been in a satanic cult in Chicago. And he got out of the cult. And the reporter was interviewing him. And of course, how very typical of a reporter to be a smartass. And, and what did you eat? This kind of nonsense, because she was intimidated by the subject and she couldn't conduct herself in a sophisticated way with a subject matter that was really so extraordinary. So he finally said to her, I could name everybody in this cult, in this satanic cult, and you would recognize every one of their names because they're all powerful political figures and religious figures in the city of Chicago, which caught her off guard. And he said, the very thing that the devil counts on is your arrogance, and that's his greatest power. He said he knows that he can get away with everything because you're so arrogant that you never see him. I read that and I knew it was truth. I knew it was huge truth. And from that point on, the more arrogant we got, the less we thought we needed prayer, the less we thought we needed God, the more we thought we could just do this journey ourselves, the more we decided that all this old world mystical stuff, all the need for holy language, we dispelled with holy language. We don't need this. No, there's no such thing as blasphemy. There's no such thing as this. There's no such thing as evil. Da, 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 da. And what happened? Our society got more evil and violent, more full of lies, more full of this. And look at who we are today. Look at this. People are, what do we do? Now we have to have a brand new kind of archetype to identify someone who tells the truth. My God, they're a whistleblower. You dare tell the truth. You need to, and if you tell the truth, you're so blunt. My God, you're so direct telling the truth because truth is now the enemy.
And yet, you gave a talk 2 weeks ago in which you said, viewed from the caboose of the train, because we are always on our path, we are always on our track, it does not appear as it truly is, which means if this is all part of our path, all part of our purpose, then at the end of the day, and this could be a very long day indeed, something good can or maybe will by necessity come out of this.
What you've said hints at that childlike mythology narrative that some off-planet God is going to come in and make everything better at the end of the day. And I am a deep believer in God, for God's sake. But the rules are co-creation. If we want to do stupid things, if we want to pollute our water, we're going to drink polluted water. And then we will get dysentery and we will suffer for that and our children will die. There is no off-planet God that's going to come in and say, here's your dysentery pills. I told you to stop polluting this water. It's a million different ways we're getting that message.
So it again comes to the question. Maybe let me blow the question out bigger. Is prayer everything, or is prayer enough?
No, prayer is never enough. Consider something logically. If you're sick and you said to me, oh my God, I've been diagnosed with high blood pressure and diabetes. And then you turn around and eat a Snickers while praying. What do you think? What do you think?
Well, I think it's the person who goes to the pearly gates and says, God, I've been praying my whole life to win the lottery. Why didn't I win? And St. Peter at the pearly gate said, why didn't you buy a ticket?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. I mean, it's just the stupidity of people. You got diabetes, give up sugar, stop it. Move your body, drop some weight, help yourself out. And then pray. And where prayer comes in is that you own it. You say, I don't want to change. I'm addicted to sugar and I'm very lazy and I don't want to get my carcass off this couch to walk a mile a day. So what I need is your help to strengthen my will. I'll start out and I won't break my commitment that I will walk maybe 2 blocks a day, and I'll start there. I'm going to start out small because I'm going to try not to break my word to myself, because I've got to start trusting myself. I don't even trust myself. So help me, give me the strength not to break my word to myself. Because if I don't break my word to myself, you won't break your word to me.
See, now that's huge.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. And once you start earning your own respect for yourself for the first time in your life, and you figure out, so this is what it is, not to have self-esteem, but to actually esteem yourself. Wow, look at that. I gave my word to myself and I am keeping it. And then you say, all right, tomorrow we've walked 2 blocks every week, every day for 2 weeks. And now we're going to walk 3 blocks. And by God, you do. And pretty soon you're up to half a mile, and pretty soon your blood pressure starts going down. And pretty soon foregoing sugar is not that big a deal. And look at that. You are co-creating your health. And you're actually developing a sense of respect for yourself you never had before. So there's side benefits. And then what happens along the way is, as you build this inner trust and inner regard for yourself, you're actually strengthening your sense of will. You're actually developing a sense that when I give my word, I keep it. I'm beginning to learn how powerful my word is. My word is. And pretty soon, not that soon, but when you're ready, you begin to have ideas about what you could do. It didn't occur to you before, because it required a person who had more strength of will than you had before you started. It required someone who was capable of saying, I got to have a lot of stamina to do this, but I'm going to make it. And you believe yourself because you're going to make yourself, because you know you can. That's how it goes.
I like it.
You don't start off as a big oak tree. You start off like an acorn, but that's how it goes.
I like the idea of starting very slowly so that we don't break our word to ourselves, because it seems that inner dialogue, more than anything else, is huge. The minute we start breaking ourselves down, we're done.
Yep. That's right.
What one thing would you have people start with today?
Actually, what I just described, which is build faith in yourself. And if you build faith in yourself, we'll find it more intuitively possible to understand the nature of God and having faith in something you cannot see. Because you can't see faith in yourself. You can't see that. You have to earn it. You have to put that wiring in, and you have to animate it. And if you don't have any faith in yourself, if you can't keep your word, if you can't keep your word to somebody, if you can't even keep your word to yourself, then I assure you, you will never have a healthy relationship. You won't, because you'll always just have a little bit of doubt that they really mean what they say. You'll double check them. You always will. And you'll never trust your intuition. And you'll always be looking for somebody's approval, because you'll never really fully approve of yourself. And you'll never really fully approve of your own gut instinct. You'll always be codependent on somebody else and somebody else's idea of, do you think this is good enough for me? And relinquishing your power to somebody else. Everything starts with faith and trust. Everything. So you have to start, but you have to earn it. So you have to start building trust and faith in yourself. So start there and just say, you know what you have to do. Everybody knows they either have to do something to improve their diet, something to improve their life, something to improve the way they think, something to improve an attitude, something stop lying, just tell the truth, whatever it is. I'm not going to gossip, whatever it is, start small. Just, I'm not going to say a nasty thing. I'm not going to judge people for the next, I'm going to start once a day. I'm not going to judge people. I'm just going to be kinder in my thoughts. And every time something comes up, you say, no, 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 no. I'm going to have a kind thought, kind thought, kind thought. Just pray your way through it and make it through a day and just say, I gave my word to myself that I would not have nasty thoughts, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Stop sharing your pain with people. They're not interested. They're not interested. I'm going to do everybody a favor and tell them, stop, Jesus Christ, sharing your wounds. I mean, they're like, this again? I'm going to tell you that for a fact. I know as a teacher, my workshop behind the scenes, they're like, do I have to listen to this again? So don't manipulate people. All of it's a spiritual practice.
What do we do with, this is such a loaded question. Then we're going to wind things down here. And I need to know where people can go to find your work, but what do we do when we look at the outer? Even if we've got blinders on, we look at the outer and anger or rage or anything comes up. What do we do with those emotions when we just given our word that we're going to have only kind thoughts or kind thoughts to others? What do we do?
Well, 9 out of 10 times what you get angry about can be dealt with if you go out and scream or something, and then come back and talk about it. Okay. Just go spit your anger out and then come back and rational. Number 2 is, if you'll notice, a lot of the times when you get angry about something, it's got a history to it. And you've got to ask yourself, does that history belong in this moment? Does that history belong? Because as I've said to people, I'm not interested in why you're angry historically, because I wasn't there. I wasn't there. So don't bring that into the conversation and just deal with what happened right now and see how much smaller it is. And you go back and you deal with your history, but I was not there and I'm not going to listen to it. So you have to be very careful about what tags. This is that train that you carry along. What baggage goes into every single thing that causes this eruption? If you say this always happens, I'm not a part of always, because I'm not always in your life and I'm not in always event. And if you always me, we won't talk, because I won't do that to you. So I prefer my rules. I don't bring my history into I bring my shopping history. I bring my cooking history. Yeah. I bring fun histories, travel histories, but my wound history has nothing to do with you. So how I deal with when I'm upset, I've worked on, and it doesn't include speeding you up, because in the moment I've come to realize how much bigger that is. And I take care of it without going after somebody.
Thank you. Where can people go, Caroline, to find your work?
My website is myss.com. And I've got a lot of workshops that are available for free. You could download them, or a lot of workshops that you can purchase online. My online classes are fabulous. And I have a lot of other teachers that have given fantastic classes online, and many coming up this year. I'm teaching in Assisi on St. Francis in June. I know. Too good to be true. I'm so excited about that. Oh my God.
That is too cool.
And I'm hoping to go to Fatima with a group. So we'll see.
What's your theme over there?
Well, it's all about the, contemporary mysticism and everything. Why are these saints still famous? And what do they have to teach us in modern times? Francis had the most beautiful experiences. He heard God call him by name. And don't tell me people don't really want to experience that, because they do. And they're terrified of that. They're so terrified to be that close to the light, because they're so afraid, well, what will happen to my sex life and my bank account? They don't get the freedom that comes from no longer being afraid of life. How much fun is that, right? The freedom that comes from actually knowing that there's an angel standing behind you and actually saying, we got to get out of here. Just help me out here. And knowing that that help's really happening. That's the difference between actually knowing and hoping it's true. When you get over that hope and just know, and you're walking down the street knowing there's an angel behind, what a liberation. It doesn't take away from your physical life. It gives you the freedom to love it, to love all of it, to really experience the power of love without thinking, without being afraid of human beings, without being afraid of really realizing how acts of love truly change the quality of life for people. Mm.
Woohoo! I was going to ask her final words. I think we just got them.
Thank you, Michael.
This has been beautiful, Caroline. This has been beautiful. This has been beautiful. This has been beautiful. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun. Oh my God, do you have work to do beginning now? And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Wow, what a powerful, strong, and important interview from Caroline Myss. On that note, if you want to begin vibrating at that higher level, do come join us with the School of Mystics 4 Wednesdays each month. The link is down below, or start with that tiny little baby step each and every day by getting a daily attunement, a daily dose of inspirational goodness to help bring you up, to help you as you step forward powerfully on your path. Simply go to Daily Woohoo. The link is down below, dailywoohoo.com. And if you want to learn how to communicate with your angels, with your guides, with the ones who have got your back, come on over to automaticwriting.com. I've got live classes and more to help you to communicate with your angels and guides on the other side. Of course, here's a link to the next amazing show. Love you so, so much. Keep on shining bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? Lots of love, everyone.